Hello and welcome back. Hopefully we'll finish section 1.1 in this video. And we've been talking about angles. So I think one of the last things that we'll talk about are coterminal angles. And these are angles that differ by multiples of 360 degrees. So I think the best way to see this is we could be talking about an angle that's 60 degrees. Here this is in standard position because the vertex of the angle is at the origin, and our initial side is pointing straight to the right along the x-axis. And here we're going up 60 degrees. But I could also be talking about the angle that comes up and continues around past where it started and then finishes at this line as well. So what is this angle? I've gone around once, so one complete rotation is 360 degrees, and I've gone an extra 60 degrees, like it is here. So 360 plus another 60, that's going to be 420 degrees. So even though these are two different numbers, they both have the same initial side and the same terminal side. So the angle looks the same, but we're talking about slightly different ones. One extends just from the initial side to the terminal side. The other extends past the terminal side through the initial side again, and then finally finishes there. We can do the same thing, but even going in the other direction as well. So we can have our same 60 degree angle. I'll put that in red. But perhaps I'm talking about a negative angle. So remember that positive angles are going to go counterclockwise. Negative angles will go clockwise. So if I go clockwise from the initial side to the terminal side, I'm going to be going backwards. And again, it's the same thing as 60, but I've gone the reverse around the rotation. So what this is going to be 60, do some white, will be 60 minus 360 degrees. So this angle here is going to be negative 300 degree angle. So again, as we come around, these two angles should sort of fill up the whole rotation, but because this is going backwards, it will be a negative number. So ultimately, if you take 60 and you add 360 to it, we're just adding a rotation. But I could add 360 multiple times. I could add however many rotations that I want. So I could add n of them, for instance. So I think this will look better at the end, 360 times n. So here, if I take 60 and I add 360 to it however many times that I want, I'm always going to end up in exactly the same place because this is just a complete rotation. Now n could be a positive number. I could add 1 rotation, 2 rotations, 3 rotations, or I could rotate backwards like I did here. And by rotating backwards, I could just treat n as a negative number. I could put -1, -2, -3. So any coterminal angle with 60 is going to be 60 plus some multiple of 360, either a positive multiple or a negative multiple. So here, let's find the least positive angle coterminal with each of the following. So with 915, if I want to find a coterminal angle with this guy, I'm going to just be adding and subtracting 360 from it, and these will be the coterminal angles. But I want to find the least positive angle. So this is pretty big. So I want to find a smaller one. Least here meaning smaller. So if I subtract 360 from that, I will get 5, 5, 5, I believe. So again, 555, this is still quite a big angle, so let's subtract another 360 from this. This will be 5, we'll have 9, and 1, so 195. Now here, we can see that if I subtract another 360 from this, I'll get a negative number, but I want it to be positive. So I'll stop there. This will be the least positive angle coterminal with this guy. Here I have negative 100. I want to find the least positive angle coterminal with this guy. I don't want to subtract 360 from this. I'll just get another negative angle. So what I'll do is I'll add 360 to that. And negative 100 plus 360, this is going to be 260 degrees. And I'm already positive, so I can just stop there. Here, if I have negative 672, okay, this is a negative number. I want a positive angle, so we'll end up adding 360 to this. So after I add 360 to this, so let's take, 360 and subtract, 672, and we'll subtract 360 from this to get 312, so we'll be at negative 312. This is still a negative number, so I haven't found the correct positive angle yet, so I'll add another 360 to this. Adding 360 to this gives us a 48 degree angle, and it's positive, and this is going to be the smallest one. If I add any more 360s to this, it'll be quite big. So again, typically mathematicians will prefer to work with, or anyone else, scientists, engineers, will prefer to work with the angle that's between 0 and 360. It's, normally sort of makes the most sense. Very briefly, so some common coterminal angles. So a 0 degree angle, one where you haven't traveled any, is the same thing, or is coterminal with a 360. So 0 rotations is the same, would be coterminal with exactly 1 rotation, or 720, which is exactly 2 rotations, or negative 360 or negative 320. Those are just going to be 1 rotation in the negative direction, or 2 rotations in the negative direction. The same with 90, 180, 270. We can add 360 to these to get coterminal angles, or we can subtract 360 from these to get coterminal angles. So these are just some common ones. You might see these pop up from time to time. So it's just a good idea to have to be able to recognize some of these numbers. And then the very last thing that we'll see is just the fact that the x and y axes, so we have the x-axis and the y-axis, they divide the plane into what are called 4 quadrants. So we have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. So if I had an angle that's between 0 degrees and 90 degrees, somewhere it will be, the angle will live entirely in quadrant 1. Whereas if so these are going to be 0 through 90 degrees. If I was over here, I'll be starting at 90 degrees and going all the way to, this would be a straight angle. So this is going to be between 90 and 180 degrees. Down here, again, is going to be between 180 degrees and 270 degrees. And if I had an angle that stretched all the way around, we've gone 3/4 of the way. So 3/4 of the way, 3/4 of 360 is going to be 270. And if I go all the way back to the beginning, it's going to be 360. So angles that are between 0 and 90 will live in quadrant 1, between 90 and 180 in quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. So it's just a good idea to keep these in mind so that we can describe where things are in the plane a little bit easier. And that concludes section 1.